Officer Carl Zander and the Coffee Machine. Warrant Officer Carl Zander had spent most of his life chasing drug traffickers. For 40 years he had worked cases that stretched from dusty border roads to hidden warehouses near the coast. Criminals feared him. Honest officers trusted him. But every morning began the same way. Coffee. Not station coffee. Not the watery brew that tasted like old paperwork. His coffee. A machine that sat in the corner of his office like a loyal partner. When the world of investigations became too dark, the machine offered a few minutes of peace. "That's my safe space," he often joked. Nobody imagined that one day the machine would disappear. The trouble started when hundreds of kilograms of seized cocaine vanished from secure police storage. Everyone was asking questions. Who knew about the drugs? Who had access? Who was protecting whom? Carl asked too many questions for some people's liking. Soon whispers filled the corridors. People stopped talking when he entered rooms. Meetings happened without him. Files moved without explanation. The more he searched for answers, the more isolated he became. And then, one Monday morning, he walked into his office and stopped. The coffee machine was gone. Carl reported the theft. He expected sympathy. Instead, he became part of the investigation. Forms were completed. Statements were taken. Then came something even stranger. A polygraph test. "You're testing me?" Carl asked. "Because somebody stole my coffee machine?" The answer was yes. The machine that had comforted him during difficult investigations was now the reason he sat in a small room connected to wires. The irony was almost funny. Almost. Months later, a national commission began examining allegations of corruption, interference, and criminal infiltration within the justice system. Witnesses arrived carrying boxes of documents. Lawyers argued. Commissioners listened. When Carl finally took the stand, he spoke calmly. He described investigations. He described pressures. He described the missing drugs. And then he described the coffee machine. The hearing room laughed. The nation laughed. But behind the laughter was something else. People recognized what the coffee machine represented. It wasn't just an appliance. It was the small piece of normality that had been taken from a man trying to do his job. His story spread across South Africa. Near the end of his testimony, evidence emerged that the disputed polygraph findings against him were unreliable. Procedural failures had tainted the process. The allegations hanging over him began to collapse. For a moment, Carl sat silently. Years of frustration seemed to leave him all at once. The tough investigator who had spent decades confronting criminals suddenly found himself wiping away tears. Not because he had won, because somebody had finally listened. South Africans are known for many things. Patience is not always one of them. When people heard Carl's story, they decided enough was enough. If the Hawks could not replace the coffee machine, ordinary citizens would. A fundraising campaign appeared almost overnight. Donations arrived from pensioners, students, business owners, and fellow officers. The target was reached within hours, then doubled, then multiplied many times over. People weren't really donating for a coffee machine. They were donating for something bigger, for honesty, for courage, for the stubborn belief that one decent investigator could still make a difference. Months later, Carl sat alone in his office. A new coffee machine hummed quietly. Outside, the battles against corruption continued. There would be more investigations, more enemies, more long nights. He poured a cup and looked at the steam rising into the air. The machine wasn't important. Not really. What mattered was what it had revealed. Sometimes the biggest stories begin with missing millions. Sometimes they begin with missing kilograms of cocaine. And sometimes, unexpectedly, they begin with a stolen coffee machine. Carl took a sip. For the first time in a long while, the coffee tasted right.